In a world with a godlike psychic, genius, fortune teller, spirit user, and even the richest man on the planet, the scariest person in this series just might be a high school girl, Teruhashi Kokomi, the angel of PK Academy. Everywhere she goes, people literally grasp Ofu, and with a single sigh, she can command people with ease. While Saiki hides his power to stay unnoticed, Teruhashi's existence itself is a power that can't be ignored. So today, we'll be breaking down her feats, statements, and a lot of lore regarding the Saiki series to figure out how strong Teruhashi Kokomi truly is. But before that, sub up. The goal is 15k, so if you enjoy, sub up. 16 years ago, in a certain hospital, an adorable baby girl was born. But this wasn't just any ordinary birth. The doctor who lifted her up actually started to blush. She was transcendently beautiful. By a pure narrative implication, her beauty operates as a supernatural force that passively manipulates perception and emotion on a wide scale. That baby girl then grew up to become what the series calls an undeniably perfect, beautiful girl. But what makes Teruhashi's beauty so different is that it actively changes how the world around her behaves. A famous one of hers is Angel's Breath. Just one sigh and she can make an entire crowd form around her. Strangers offer her money, places to stay, or ask if she's okay. She influences people to the point it forces them to conform, and she's completely aware of it. She even names her techniques like Angel's Breath, or another one is Angel's Upper Beam, where a crowd forms, people start shouting commands, social media explodes, and a helicopter was even dispatched, all because Teruhashi tilted her head and asked for help finding someone. That's the true scope of her passive powers. It's not anything like Aiura's or Saiki's, but the way everyone she meets instinctively sees her as perfect is kind of broken. Well, everyone except for one person, Saiki Kusuo, and also technically Kusuke, but we'll get to that later. Next, we'll be moving on to her most absurd and popular power, that being her luck. In simple terms, her life is a string of happy accidents and convenient outcomes so consistent that the series literally frames this as an ability called luck or divine protection, meaning Kokomi has absurdly good luck because God favors her. We're told that if something messy or bad should happen to Teruhashi, fate finds a loophole to keep her flawless and perfect. An example of this is one day, a car speeds through a puddle to splash her with mud, but instead of staining her, the splatter lands in a perfect pattern on her uniform, completely missing her face, turning it into a fashionable design. It's not quite probability manipulation, but close to it in its effect. Another instance of this divine luck is that Kokomi can practically wish things into happening by just being cute about it. On a few occasions, she silently prays or hopes to end up in the same group as Saiki on school trips or groups, and each time, somehow, her name gets drawn with his. In fact, Saiki once had to secretly use his psychic powers to swap name tags to avoid being paired with her, because if left alone, Teruhashi would have inevitably drawn his name by sheer luck. The universe just wants them to be together so badly. She even skips praying at the shrine on New Year's, because as the narration jokes, she already gets everything she wants without asking. The act of praying for most people in Japan today is considered a cultural tradition and social norm rather than a strict expression of religious faith. But it originated from the Shinto religion for one to attract the attention of kami, or God. However, Teruhashi wakes up with this attracted state by default, as if she's constantly praying. To put that into perspective, other characters notice her ridiculous luck too. The most direct showing of this is when a new student, Aiura Mikoto, meets Teruhashi. Mikoto can see auras, basically one's life force, similar to how you can see mana in isekai or fantasy stories. However, Kokomi's aura appears as bright as an angel's wing, with a few dark feathers hinting at her one or two not-so-angelic thoughts. But she's stunned by Kokomi's seemingly divine presence and the perks that follow her. And if you think they're exaggerating, it's frequently referenced Teruhashi is favored by God in story. She even survived days on a deserted island, looking pristine, remarking that her body somehow can't get dirty. It's basically plot armor designed as beauty armor. Even Saiki can't go against this divine luck, or what he calls God or Kami. But this makes you question, who is God in the world of Saiki K? Many believe that Saiki himself is a godlike figure, shown from his feats of rewriting reality, etc. However, that interpretation doesn't make sense, as Saiki himself acknowledges he can't compete with God. More importantly, Kokomi was naturally born with blue hair. The only known people who are born with naturally colored hair is Kusuke, Kusuo, and Teruhashi. Other power users might have also been born with colored hair, but there is no direct showing of it. And you have to remember, Teruhashi's birthday is August 6th and Saiki's birthday is August 16th. So there is no way she could have been affected by Saiki's reality warping. So if you take this interpretation, the god in the Saiki K universe bestow individuals with incredible power a unique set of hair color. So it's safe to say there is a higher force acting upon the universe that sets apart for these characters. That brings me to my last point. If Saiki and Teruhashi were destined to be together, there are many canon showings of Saiki being interested in Kokomi, and obviously Kokomi likes Saiki. But one memorable revelation is from Saiki's own inner voice. When you and I combine our powers, nothing is impossible, we're invincible. This dynamic proves that God designed Teruhashi to be Saiki's perfect counterpart. Her power isn't just for her own sake, nor is it merely a challenge to his own desire for a quiet life. It's a fundamental part of a much larger design. Think about it. It's no coincidence that every major supernatural user, whether it be Aiura or Toritsuka, etc., somehow ends up at PK Academy, orbiting Saiki, and it goes beyond just other sidekicks. What about his self-proclaimed best mate, Nendou? A man so dumb that Saiki's telepathy is completely useless against him. I would suggest it's another part of the design. God didn't just give Saiki a love interest he couldn't ignore, but he also gave him a best friend whose thoughts he couldn't predict, forcing Saiki into a genuine, unfiltered friendship whether he liked it or not. The universe, or God, seems to be intentionally gathering these unique individuals around him, creating a very specific ecosystem for its most powerful being. It's as if this small area in Japan is a beacon for anyone who can break through Saiki's carefully constructed reality. And in this divinely created cast, Teruhashi is the design heroine. While the others are there to challenge his patience and privacy, Teruhashi challenges his heart. A being as powerful as Saiki, left alone, would become detached from humanity, but God's plan was to find someone who would stand by his side. That's why Teruhashi is the one person who consistently forces him to engage and ultimately to care on a level he doesn't with anyone else. She's the one person the universe has deemed worthy of being his partner, a fact even Saiki begins to reluctantly and then genuinely accept. And I will not let anyone deny that Saiki and Teruhashi aren't meant to be. It's very obvious from a narrative standpoint, but also is directly shown throughout the series. You can even take this instance in Season 2, Episode 24, where you see Saiki catching her from falling down. This is a solid example as to why Saiki genuinely cares about her. And to be honest, with Saiki's statement of if their powers were combined, they'd be invincible, if they actually had a baby, it'd be Goku with like Batman's intelligence or someone like Wan Ling. So, after breaking down her feats and the very laws of the universe, what's the final verdict? Just how strong is Teruhashi Kokomi? To put it simply, Teruhashi's luck operates on a level so profound that it can consistently bypass the will of Saiki Kusuo himself. This is a being who can resist meta-level attacks, a topic I cover in another video, so definitely go check that out. Yet, even he cannot fully defy the will of God that bends fate in Teruhashi's favor. Logically, this means that against any character weaker than Saiki, her divine protection would essentially be an absolute form of plot armor. But her social influence is just as powerful. While a super genius with an insane EQ like Kusuke might be intellectually immune to her beauty, he is still powerless against the tidal wave of influence she commands. But ultimately, she is the undeniably perfect beautiful girl, a title backed by the highest authority in her universe. She is a character so beloved by God that reality itself conspires to ensure she will always win, especially when it comes to chasing the one man she loves.